Uh-oh. Yeah, got out of it. So, got a little bit of a mystery action ghost going on here. As you can see, it's the same ghost body that I used with the dollar store fogger project. Only now I've made a base for it and put in a bump and go mystery drive. Also stuck in an LED in there. The files are going to be up on Thingiverse, so if you want to make one for Halloween, you can. Besides the LED that's in there to light it up, if I were to turn the lights off in the room, you would see that it's glowing. A person could put a sound chip in there with some classic ghost noises, and I would, except I haven't got a sound chip here right at the moment. Alright, let me get down there and grab that, so you guys hang on here. Okay, so I've purposely not glued this thing together or made anything permanent because I figured I might have to do a build video on it, but I don't know, maybe this will answer most of the questions and I won't have to. Obviously that hole right there doesn't need to be there. That was for the fogger. I had a little fan in there to help blow the fog out. This is your base piece, and it has a lip which would fit if you wanted to glue this thing down to the ghost when it's complete. Built into the middle of it here, here's the bump and go drive. I'm using the standard dual shaft TT gear motor. This is the faster RPM one, which I believe is what, the 148, or more correctly said 48:1 gear ratio. My standard slide switch that I like to use right there, it's 19 millimeters on mounting center. In this case, the switches, you know, they come with different lengths of shafts on them. And because I didn't want that sticking down too far, I added a couple of little spacers in there. You could use some nuts, you could use some bolts. Or if you're going to order some switches, just order them with the shorter handle. These are ones that I ordered with a longer handle for other projects. And I didn't want it dragging. And like I say, I just kind of kludged in this LED to see how well it would light it up in there. A white LED actually needs a little bit over 3 volts in order to light. This only has 3, so I have a small voltage boost circuit there. It takes the 3 volts up to 5, and then have a current limiting resistor right there. And it was just running the LED. I know it looks kind of crappy, but I just wanted to see how it would light up. The wheels themselves in the rear, I've got a couple of paper clips that I just jammed through there and would bend the metal so they wouldn't fall off. One thing I did notice is that the front slots for the rear wheels up here, you can see how close those are. And I have to take your X-Acto knife or something and cut that out a little bit so the wheels don't rub. I got the slots big enough, but basically I blew where the axle hole should be by maybe 1 millimeter, maybe a little bit less. Now the battery door on this one, I decided to make a screwdriver type, and let's see if I can do this one-handed. So this is the door. See, it's got a little protrusion in the back that goes into that protrusion there. So when you go to put the thing on, you put the back in first and then push the front down, and then turning this screw turns this piece around, which locks into that front hole. The battery box itself is just a standard 2AA battery box, which again with just one hand. I don't know, there we go. I was going to say I don't know if I can do it with one hand, but I can. I leave enough wires so that you can get the batteries in and out, and then they should tuck up in there. Just brought the wires up. I brought a positive down to the switch, then took positive back up to the motor. This unit here, well, let's see. I'm not really set up to take this part apart. Maybe I can with one hand. Let's see what we can do here. This piece that I'm pulling off is a retainer It kind of holds the bump and go in place. Now that should drop out. There we go. So now you can see the bump and go unit. You can see there's just two wheels on that TT gear motor. And this is the one that has the D shaft, so it's locked to the motor. This one, we kind of leave freewheeling. You have to put some sort of small screw in there, and if your screw is tight to the wheel, you're going to have to ream or drill that wheel out, because you want this one to turn fairly freely. It can have a little bit of drag on the shaft, but mostly you want that one to turn freely, whereas this one you want to stay locked on the shaft to drive. Otherwise it's not going to be able to turn when it gets jammed up. The motor slides up from the bottom. You do have to cut the nubs off the motor, and you know how most of these motors have got a thing that clips on here, goes over the motor into the backside and clips again. It's actually made out of silicone to hold the motor in place. Well, we don't need that, because when this motor is pushed up in here, it's going to hold the motor in place. So you need to remove that silicone thing and clip this bracket off the backside so the motor will fit in flush. And I'm using two short number 632 screws here in America. It's a number 6 screw. The 32 is referring to how many threads per inch. It's one of the most common screw sizes that you'll have. If you've ever replaced a wall switch, or there isn't one here, pretend like there's a power outlet there. A power outlet. These are the screws that you'll get if you take that out of the one you're throwing away. Very handy to have around. Use them for all sorts of things. So, and once I've done that, I take some wires and you run them down through here. Before the motor's in there, just let the wires come all the way down. Then you can poke them back up through this slot and drag them out, so you can solder them on neatly. If you're hooking yours up the same way I hooked mine up, with the drive wheel over here and the motor facing this way, positive should go to the back and black will go to the front. This little nubbin piece here will face the front. That basically keeps this from turning more than all the way around. It stops it in both directions. If it could infinitely turn around and around and around, you'd end up breaking your wires. But because it just turns, you know, enough to rotate the ghost, you don't have that problem. So there you have it. There aren't that many parts to print. You print the ghost, you print this piece, these two wheels, the base, then the door itself is made up of two parts. You have the door and you have this piece. So it's not a big build. Printed them all on the A1 Mini, so if it can print on here, it can print on any printer you've got, since that's a very small printer. And I'm uploading the files to Thingiverse as we speak, so the STO files should be there. What else I was going to say? Oh, when you print this base piece, obviously this sits flat on the bed when it prints, and I ran supports up. This center hole up there is going to be covered over by 2 layers of filament. So you have to go in with your X-Acto knife and cut that out so that it's open. And the reason I did that is this part can be printed without any supports if you want, but I went ahead and used tree supports because it makes a little bit cleaner print. Now the same is true with this piece. Obviously if the motor and the wheels weren't on there, this piece would print flat on your printer like that, and this hole opening up in there has a thin layer, so I reach up in there with the X-Acto knife, clean that out to open that hole up so you can tuck the wires through, because again, this part can be printed without supports. However, you can see you have nice tapers everywhere. I believe I went ahead and printed it with supports because, again, I just wanted a better looking part, so the parts would look decent in the video. So supports, X-Acto knife out the holes. You might need spacers for your switch depending on how long your toggle switch handle is. Make sure you clean out all these openings to get rid of the elephant foot from your printer, and the front ones, you're going to have to go ahead and dig those out a little bit more, either with a knife or a file, or I used to use my X-Acto knife. It didn't need much clearance. You just want it so the wheels will freely spin, and you'll be good to go.